Hey guys, Brady and Forrest here with Gearful. We wanted to take a moment here on the mountain to speak with you about Stone Glacier and Sitka, specifically the incredible synthetic insulating layers that they offer. There's gonna be two of each that we're gonna speak to. We're gonna talk about their differences, their highlights, and then perhaps more importantly, we're also gonna anchor it with the situations in which we're going to choose one over the other, and maybe that'll help you in any future decisions of your own. So that being said, you want to go ahead and kick it off with the Ambient?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the Ambient Jacket. We've got the Stone Glacier Cirque Lite. We've got the Sitka Kelvin Aerolite, and then we've got the Stone Glacier Cirque Proper. So like Forrest said, we'll start out with the Ambient, and right away, I will mention that this is a different piece of gear than the rest of them. I wanted to add it in this video just because it's hard to tell, you know, when you're looking at the website, you see a bunch of jackets, they're all in the same camo. Yeah, you don't really know what you're looking at, and they call it an insulation layer. You're like, oh, okay, what's that mean?
Very true.
This is very different than the other three because it's an active insulation layer. So what that means is it's gonna be breathable. It's not gonna protect you from the wind, but it is gonna hold a lot of warmth still. I would say this is purpose built for the guy that's trying to hike with a mid layer on and then stop and still retain some heat. So when I've worn any of the Ambient line, I've noticed that it's really the kind of piece that you don't have to take off.
Yeah.
Whether you're stopped, whether you're moving, it's always on me. So that's a really cool trait, but because of that, it's quite a bit different than the other three.
Yeah, I mean, if the temperatures are cool enough, yet still warm, and you're highly mobile, like you're going from a perceived glassing position, one after the other, because you've never been there real time, and you're more mobile, I think the Ambient is the way to go in a lot of different situations such as that.
So like I said, it's got the 150 grams of active insulation. It's kind of a fuzzy, fleecy feel. And then it's got a nylon outer. That's gonna give you minimal protection against a rainstorm. It's gonna give you very minimal wind protection. And as far as durability goes, it's really not the piece that you wanna be busting through brush with.
No,
like,
no way.
It'll hold up to delicate use or thoughtful use, I will say, but it's not the kind of piece, it's not like a soft shell where you can just go busting through the woods, not worry about it, and expect it to hold up. It's designed to be lightweight, packable. It's not an outer shell. It doesn't have an outer fabric that's meant to hold up to that kind of abuse.
Right, and if it did, it wouldn't serve the purpose to which it was made to begin with.
Exactly. So, you know, you can't really complain about durability on something that's not designed for that.
True.
As far as noise goes, I'll try and just kind of rub it together next to the mic. And I would say there's very little noise if you're like moving an arm to draw a bow back, but if it's rubbing against itself, you do hear it a bit. I would definitely close the stock in this jacket, but it's about as noisy as I would want for those final moments of an archery hunt. But it would definitely still work.
Yeah, it definitely work. How about packability? Did you touch on that?
No, yeah, so it's not the most packable piece. I mean, trying to roll it up into a tight ball just to demonstrate. It's about the size of a football, but what I will say is I seldom find myself putting this piece in my pack. If it's cold enough to where I want to take it, I've got it on me the whole time. And if I am going to use, if it's warmer weather, I'm probably going to go for a more normal insulation layer that I'll take off when I'm active.
Gotcha.
So packability, it's good, but I would say it's a little bit irrelevant on this piece just because of the way you use it.
I'd agree.
It comes in at $299. So it's not the cheapest option out there by any means, but it is a very high performing piece. And there's really nothing else in the hunting industry that I've found that matches it.
No, not especially with that material that they provide on the inside there. So
exactly, it truly does work. Like, it's not just a marketing ploy. The Ambient line is legit. So that's that. Moving to the Stone.
Yeah, for Stone Glacier, we'll go ahead and start it with their new for 2023 Cirque Lite. This is going to be the most comparable piece perhaps to that Sitka Ambient we just looked at.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's so different, you know. So the Cirque Lite's going to give you a Pertex 15 denier face fabric. It's going to be the same as the Cirque. It's going to give you some wind resistance and some moderate abrasion resistance, but at the same time, this is not your Carhartt jacket. It's gonna have the Primaloft insulation, about half of what you're gonna find in the Cirque. And it's gonna give you the same fit and function, and I like that with stone because you can go from the Cirque to the Cirque Lite and you're gonna have the same seam pattern, the same pocket. It's gonna fit and feel the same, just give you a little bit less insulation if that's what you're seeking on a given day or a given trip. But
right, you kind of know what you're getting.
Exactly. So, but the specific differences here are on the side panels. It's kind of a hybrid design. With the Cirque Lite, you've got this breathable microgrid fleece, and it's also treated with polygene technologies. But aside from that, that's the primary difference. Again, about half the Primaloft insulation. This is going to come in at about $239 a piece. A large is going to be about 15 ounces in weight. Packability, probably comparable to the Ambient. I'll just roll this up rather aggressively, no technique whatsoever. About a football.
A little smaller.
Yeah, it's so thin and pliable, you could stuff it in your pack into different voids and such, and it could even fit in your lid if I had to venture to say. But you know, as far as noise generation, I'm gonna say it's a little more noise generation, if you can hear that next to the mic, than what we saw with the Ambient. I don't think it's prohibitive to getting in close on a stock, for example, but I mean, that's pretty much it for the Cirque Lite. And then maybe on the end, we'll anchor it with like use applications, right?
Yeah, and I will mention too, this piece is lighter and a little more packable than the Sitka Ambient. It's also gonna be a lot more wind resistant, but it's still gonna have some breathability, not near as much breathability though as the Ambient.
Agreed, agreed. So that's the Cirque Lite.
So moving on to the Kelvin Aerolite. It's a different piece than the Ambient by a huge margin. It's quite a bit different than the Cirque Lite even in terms of use. This is a true insulation piece. Think about it as a synthetic version of a down jacket, right? What's really special about the Kelvin Aerolite is not only does it use Primaloft Gold insulation, but it also uses their cross-core technology. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but I do know that it means it translates to less weight and volume for the warmth. So it's gonna be a warmer piece that's gonna be more packable. It's their highest grade of insulation from Primaloft, and it really does work. There's a lot of testimony. Your brother has this piece, right?
He does, he loves it.
And then I've used it quite a bit. Like when I first picked it up, I was like, wow, this is thinner than I want.
It definitely feels lacking.
It feels very lacking, but it works. Like you can't argue the proof is in the pudding. It is an incredibly warm piece. Now, it is not necessarily designed to be breathable. It doesn't have pit zips. I wish it did. It does have a different inner fabric here along the sides and the armpit. So that's gonna help a bit. If you're moving for 15 minutes or so, I would be fine wearing this, or if it's very cold weather.
Yeah.
But for extended exertion, I'm probably gonna take this off in favor of something a little more breathable like the Ambient. This one comes in at 16 ounces. It's $329, and definitely kind of the first, or their best insulation layer, I would say. It's a true insulation layer.
Yeah, that's kind of a high-speed, low-drag piece, if I may.
Yeah, oh yeah, packability actually, because that's where this one really sticks out to me. And unlike the Ambient, this is a piece where I'm going to have it in my pack, take it out when I'm stopped, take it off, put it back in my pack. So packability is really gonna matter. And I mean, you can't, it's hard to show that, but
it really is.
It gets small. I'd put this in the water bottle holder of a backpack. Like you could really fit it in a lot of different pockets, so.
So should we move on into the Cirque?
Yeah.
All right, so the last one of the four we're talking to you today is gonna be the Stone Glacier Cirque. This is the most, in my opinion, this is the most traditional synthetic insulating layer of the four we're looking at today.
Yep.
And that being said, it's a bit more of a tank in that regard. So the Cirque is gonna have your traditional Primaloft insulation. This is not the gold variant. It's gonna have about twice the Primaloft insulation as the Cirque Lite. Mm-hmm. Consequently, you're gonna get a weight difference here of about 5 to 6 ounces over the Cirque Lite. So this in a size large is gonna be about 1 pound and 5 ounces. But as far as the specific design differences here than the Cirque Lite, For me, it's going to be the pit zips.
Huge.
So
right?
I love them.
Yeah.
I use them almost all the time.
Big time.
I only really close them up if I'm mobile, if there's a noticeable wind present. But what I like about how Stone Glacier uses the Cirque and the Cirque Lite is they keep the same fit and function, the same pocket orientation, the articulated sleeves and hood are identical, so that when you go from one to the other, you're expecting, you know what you're going to expect and you know what you're going to get out of it. It's just you're going to be a little bit warmer.
It's simple, right? Like you're talking the same pieces, you've just got twice the insulation.
Exactly. It's even the same 15 denier Pertex face fabric that's on the Cirque Lite. Yep. So moderate abrasion resistance. I mean, don't just go barreling through the brush and think that your jacket's not going to show it, but at the same time, it's not the end of the day if it does show a couple, nicks and burrs on it and such. But
yep.
This piece here is going to come in at $279 a piece, if I haven't said that already. Packability, probably the least packable of the four we're looking at today.
Not by a huge margin,
Not by a huge margin. Again, you're probably not going to roll it up like a football and put it in your pack, right?
Exactly.
But at the same time, that's what we're here to demonstrate, is the differences between the pieces. And ultimately, I'd say noise generation, almost identical to the Cirque Lite. Again, same face fabric.
I'll cut you off here and say the Aerolite is going to be a fair amount noisier than the Ambient, and also compared to that, I think we're looking at more noise in the Aerolite.
Think so? All right, go ahead. Again,
this is weird.
Getting weird here on this film, but again, none of this noise generation is really that prohibitive, in my opinion.
Sure. I would probably go to removing the Aerolite for those last couple yards of the stock. It's just right on the borderline of too noisy if you're really getting in that close archery range. The Cirque is a little quieter. I think you could make it work if you're an archery guy.
I think so.
You're probably going to have a little more noise than you want with both of the pieces, though.
Yeah.
So
perhaps.
Talk about use.
Yeah, let's get into, the main topic of the video.
Yeah.
What are the specific use applications? So you want to lead off?
Yeah, sure. Like we said, the Ambient is kind of over here, but we wanted to include it just because it's hard to really tell when you're shopping online. But the use of the Ambient is going to be pretty all-encompassing. So that's the kind of piece that I'll probably have in my backpack for 80% of my hunts, right? It's the kind of piece where you can hike in it, you can wear it all day long through low activity and high activity. If it's a cold hunt, you just keep it on as your mid layer, but it's the kind of mid layer that's going to breathe a little better, provide a little more warmth. So it's just going to treat you a little bit nicer than something like a normal grid fleece here, especially when you throw a windbreaker or any sort of wind breaking outer over top of it. It's going to be a really nice, lightweight and warm mid layer.
Agreed.
So in terms of an outer layer, it's not going to block the wind hardly at all. So if you got a brisk wind coming through and you're glassing for more than 5 minutes, you should probably take it off, but it does dry very quickly. So if you sweat a little bit in it, that wind is going to go straight through it. It's going to dry out.
Interesting. Well, for these pieces here, that Stone Glacier Cirque Lite, I'm going to look to it, really from mid-spring through probably mid-September. I'm going to use it on my, my training hikes here locally, not too far from town. I'm going to use it readily there. I'm going to use it in the office if I'm just doing day trips during that same period. But once the temperatures start to drop, or if I'm doing a more extended effort in the mountains from, say, beginning in mid-September, I'm probably not going to bring the Cirque Lite. I just want a little bit more peace of mind as far as my insulating layer.
Right, and like we've said before, you seldom grab an insulation layer and think, man, I wish it wasn't so warm.
True.
Like when it's time to pull out an insulation layer, you want it to be warm.
True. Yep, so that's me in the Cirque Lite. It's more of a tailored piece. I don't think it's as versatile as the Cirque. And the reason is, if you're going to be away from the truck, you're going to have a good weather forecast to where you have good peace of mind knowing that that Cirque Lite's going to be enough for you. That's my peace of mind. That's my 2 cents on the subject. But I don't mind going for another 5 to 6 ounces.
Sure.
And a little bit less on the packability factor, I'm going to go for the Cirque.
But in the Cirque, you aren't going to be able to move, a couple yards down the ridge and find a new glassing point if it's any sort of uphill.
Maybe if I'm going downhill.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
I'm going uphill, probably not. But again, it's going to depend on the temperatures, you know. So.
And then as far as the Aerolite goes, it's a true insulation layer, right? Like we said, it's comparable to a down coat in terms of the way you would use it, but it is going to breathe a little better than a down coat. Probably quite a bit better than a down coat.
Then down, true, yeah.
But it's not the kind of piece that I'm going to want to be very active in unless it really is colder temperatures. It's going to block the wind. It's going to have a little bit of resistance to rain. I would say in terms of use, this is a piece that's going to be rolled up tight, put in my pack until I'm stopped. I'll throw it on if I'm moving a little ways. I'll keep it on if I'm moving a long ways. I'm taking it off.
That's more of your traditional backpacking puffy.
Absolutely. You know? And it works really well at that. The synthetic insulation will keep you warm even if it does get a little wet.
Right.
And like I said, the technology in this insulation is really just top tier. I don't know a ton of the technical side of it, but I do know it performs.
What more do you need to know?
Yeah. If I'm layering, I will mention, I would absolutely bring the Ambient Jacket and the Aerolite in the same kit.
You get a lot of versatility for not much of a weight penalty.
100%. And if it's a colder hunt especially, the Ambient Jacket is staying on me at all times. And then I'll throw this on when I'm glassing. If I gotta move, I'd still move in this combo because it is gonna have some breathability.
All right, finally, the Cirque. Again, I bought this piece last year and I couldn't be happier with it. It's not going anywhere. It's staying in my lineup. And the reason is, again, not much of a weight penalty.
Right.
If I'm operating with some broken clouds and some intermittent showers, you know, depending upon the rainfall that I'm seeing, I'm gonna leave the Cirque on and I'm not gonna worry about putting on any type of a true rain layer within reason. Because this is gonna give me that, it's gonna keep its warmth factor, even when moist. If I'm looking at that say if I'm gonna go up on the mountain for X amount of days and I'm looking at the weather forecast and I have good peace of mind that there's no precipitation coming, I'm gonna go more to a down insulating layer. It's gonna be lighter, it's gonna be more versatile. I just prefer it. But if I see any chance of rain or any, moderate chance of rain, I'm probably gonna take the down product out and I'm gonna throw in the Cirque just for peace of mind. Sure. I'm gonna have that warming factor whether or not this gets damp or not. But yeah, true.
Would you
go ahead?
I was gonna say, would you bring the Cirque Lite and the Cirque at the same time, or are those two separate pieces for separate hunts?
For me, I think it's a little bit too much for my liking. The Cirque Lite is a dedicated early season piece. If there's any risk of cooler temps or significant moisture and moderate temperatures, I'm gonna go to the Cirque.
Sure.
I've done it before. My piece, love it, couldn't be happier. So that's my 2 cents on the subject.
I think that's all we got.
That's all we got. I mean, 4 premier insulating layers of a synthetic type from Sitka and Stone Glacier. If you have any questions specific to these items or others, contact us through gearful.com, likely email or by phone. Brady and I, others on our team, we'd be happy to help you out and point you in the right direction.
If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.